The breaking news in the story and legal saga of Meng Wanzhou, due back in court in British Columbia on Monday, as a matter of fact. But the breaking news, as reported both in the Wall Street Journal and by Reuters yesterday, that lawyers for Meng Wanzhou and lawyers for the U.S. Department of Justice are in talks, in negotiations, to work out a deal that would see her no longer face extradition, that would see her be able to return to China, a potential deal to allow her extradition case to be dropped, to allow her to return to China. So the case itself is our top story today, and of course the implications for Canada, for relations, but also for the two Michaels. So much at stake in this case, and we return to someone who's shared wisdom on this long saga throughout. Guy Saint-Jacques is a former Canadian ambassador to China, and he's back with us from Montreal. Monsieur Saint-Jacques, thank you. Good to see you again this morning.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
You were speaking on our network yesterday. Since that time, in your initial comments, there have been no further details, no further confirmation or reaction. But again, coming back to these reports, both in the Wall Street Journal and in Reuters, what is your overall take on the possibility of a potential deal here?
Well, I think that we may be very close to a deal. And in those cases, it's normal that there are discussions taking place to try to see if you can reach a plea bargain. In fact, we went through a similar situation in 2014 when Canada arrested Subin at the request of the U.S. Justice Department. And eventually, Mr. Subin agreed to a plea bargain. And so I'm sure that this is something that had been discussed between Ottawa and Washington to try to see if a solution could be found. And of course, it was Mrs. Meng and her father who were refusing so far to get there. But I think what might have changed is that the Chinese government is now aware that its image has been tarnished by this whole affair. They were really taken by surprise when Canada sought the help of allies. In fact, at the last European summit between China and the EU that took place in September, European leaders raised the case of the Michael. And I think that probably China has put pressure on Huawei to say, try to get a deal. And the fact that this comes out now, and I assume the leak comes from the U.S. Justice Department, I would think that we are getting very close to a deal.
So that's interesting. You did mention this in some of your comments, and I took note that Canada's strategy of bringing in allies to put pressure on China over this affair, you're suggesting that it worked, that China blinked.
Well, I would say so, and the image of China has been tarnished also for other reasons. Let's remember what's taking place in Xinjiang, in Hong Kong, and so on. And of course, if Mrs. Meng is released and returned to China, and China has always said this is the precondition to free the two Canadians. It's not automatic that they will come back, but I'm pretty sure that there are discussions taking place right now between the Canadian Embassy in Beijing and Chinese authorities to try to come up with an arrangement. And if this were not to work, I am sure that there would be an international uproar if the two Canadians were not returned. This is a solution that everyone has been working on, and the China would be seen as being really not playing fair if they were not to proceed.
So the two Michaels, Michael Spavor, Michael Kovrig, who've been detained now for 2 years plus now, and they were detained after Meng Wanzhou was arrested 2 years ago, December the 1st, so 2 years ago this Tuesday. But it's interesting, is there a complication because there was never an admission from China that it was a tit-for-tat detention? So would this be an admission of that if they were to release the two Michaels?
Well, the good news is that while the two Canadians have been formally charged, their trial has not started. And in fact, this may be another confirmation that something was being discussed, because normally, according to Chinese regulations, their trial should have started months ago. And I think the fact that there's no trial yet should simplify things, because I think it would offer an opportunity to China to say, well, the case has been revised by Chinese procurators, and they have decided not to pursue the charges any longer, and that would be the elegant solution for everyone.
Solution for everyone. Such a difficult matter to negotiate for Canada. But as you say, Washington, a key role as well. And I'm wondering what your thoughts there in terms of timing. I'm trying to figure out whether it has anything to do with changes in administration, incoming Biden administration, or something from the Trump administration as it leaves. Is there anything to do with this particular timing of this?
Well, I think that most likely those discussions have been going on right from the outset. They didn't go anywhere for a long time. But probably, U.S. Justice Department lawyers kept raising this with the Mrs. Meng legal team. And as I said, if there has been pressure from the Chinese government recently, and also it seems that Mr. Bard, who heads the Justice Department, is starting to take his distances from Mr. Trump. So let's hope that the solution will be found, and our two Canadians will be back soon in Canada.
That's the key issue as we look at this. Michael Spavor, Michael Covery continuing in detention. But overall, how do we view this for Canada? Canada-China relations. Is it a win for this country, Mr. Saint-Jacques?
Well, I would say that, it would be I described that last night as the end of a long nightmare, but I don't think that things will get back to normal. I think that, frankly, trust has been lost in China. In fact, another indication that there are probably discussions taking place is the fact that Minister Champagne has not released his new engagement strategy with China. This was supposed to come out, and I think that the fact that this is delayed is probably a confirmation that discussions have moved to a new stage. But I think that once the two Canadians are back, the government will have to reassess its engagement strategy and be a lot more selective in the way that it deals with China.
And in terms of time frame, you indicated you thought if this has been made public now, and if it indeed has been leaked by someone within the DOJ, that perhaps you thought this was near the end of the negotiation over the Meng extradition. But overall, for the two Michaels, what should we be contemplating for time frame? A speedy end to this, or some long drawn-out negotiation for them?
Well, of course, the sooner they are out of their jail, the better. But and now I'm sure that the diplomats are very active to try to see if a deal can be put together, and it has to be a triangular deal to make sure that once Mrs. Meng leaves Canada, that not long after that, the two Michaels would be expelled from China. And so we'll have to see whether there is a confirmation that indeed we have a deal, and if there is a deal, I would assume that it would proceed very rapidly, that Mrs. Meng would want to return almost right away to China. And so if it's the case, well, then let's hope that the two Michaels would be back before Christmas.
She would have to admit wrongdoing in order to have this deal proceed, we understand, and she has been loath to do that, and her father as well. So that is certainly an obstacle to overcome, but we will see what happens in these discussions and where we proceed from here. Mr. Saint-Jacques, I thank you so much, as always, former Canadian ambassador to China, as we look to our story today and see whether the Prime Minister responds or says anything further at 11:30 at his briefing this morning. Thank you, Guy Saint-Jacques.
Thank you.